We're glad that you've joined us today. It's a proactive move on your part to learn more about dog training, and that is exactly what we're talking about. Proactive versus reactive dog training. What is it, and how do you make sure that you're picking the right one? Welcome back to the McCann Dogs Podcast. So you actually went proactively to your dad and said, teach me to dance, and
Yes.
he did, so that now you're here.
Well, what I did was when I was a little girl, my parents loved to dance.
Okay.
And they would sometimes dance in the living room.
Okay.
So I went and watched, and we'd laugh, and the twist was always a fun one to do because
Okay,
it's
yes.
very exaggerated. So we'd, I was proactive. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to get out on the dance floor and not know how to dance.
And look like a fool. I don't want to be
schmo.
twisting.
Exactly. So let's learn ahead of time.
Exactly. You know what? That's a really good way to look at dog training too.
Ah.
See, we didn't even plan that intro.
Right,
Boom.
yes.
There's a whole bunch of groans. I know I hear them all everywhere, but we needed to have some sort of a way of introing our topic today, which is proactive versus reactive dog training.
Right. But I do need to say something. If there was any dance professionals watching that, I know that wasn't very good. I know. I don't want people to go, I hope Christine doesn't think she's good. I liken myself to Elaine on Seinfeld, with her little kicks dancing. And I have fun, and that's the main part.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Yes. And if I was going to a real twisting competition, I would practice just like I would in dog training.
There you go.
I just wouldn't run in and fly by the seat of my pants. I would practice and get much better. And that was a little bit...
That would also be good proactive.
Right,
planning.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Right, yeah.
You're not
It's
getting
like,
away from it.
No, it's like I'm going to teach my dog a recall before I let him loose in the field.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach myself how to properly dance and not just do the dad dance.
You bet.
Yes, that our family would roll around the floor laughing about. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Now, you know what? I know that you just said that off the cuff. I'm going to teach my dog a recall before I let him off the leash, but I want to drill down on that for a second because I think that's a good way of introducing our topic and our idea today is that you have something that you want, right? You want to allow your dog freedom. If you were to simply say, okay, I'm going to grasp that because I want to allow my dog freedom, they deserve to have freedom, that is not going to serve you well. And chances are your dog at some point is going to make a choice that does not involve returning to you willingly.
Right.
And what happens at that point is now we've become reactive in our efforts to get the dog reined back in. We become reactive trying to catch the dog. We become reactive trying to now say, I need this dog to come when they're called. Whereas that proactive angle is if I want my dogs to have freedom. Here's Levon, for example. He's just 6.5 months old now, and he's starting to have some freedom in his life now because I proactively took the time to drill down on skills, teach him what he needed to know. I've taught him to recall. I've set up distractions with that recall. I've gone to different locations with that recall, with my training tools, with the intention of training the recall, not just, okay, I'm going to call my dog to come and hope he comes because then, I'll be I will have successfully gotten my dog back. No, I want to be confident that when I take that leash off, I can get my dog back because they've done it a million times now on leash, on long line, and anytime they've made a mistake, it's happened in training so that I could back myself up. I could say, okay, you know what? You needed to come there. Now we're going to make sure that we train through this. And I would work through it so that I came to a successful conclusion. And then my next training session is going to be built on that and so on and so forth until I get to the point where I think, you know what? On a long line, I can't remember the last time this dog has made a mistake. He's been doing great. He's been giving me great responses every time. Now I can start to minimize my long line a little bit. I can make sure that the dog's understanding continues as I shorten the long line and then basically get to the point where he has full freedom.
Right.
I'm not at any point crossing my fingers, and I'm not at any point allowing the situation to get away from me. Right. So what I mean by that is if I took him off leash before I felt confident in those skills, I'm allowing a potential scenario where the situation gets away from me and my dog learns exactly the opposite of all the work that I've done. Right.
Yes. So being proactive rather than reactive.
Exactly.
I feel the same way about my airline pilots. When I get on the airplane, I want my pilot to be proactive. I want him to know how to avoid mountains and thunderstorms and
know that he should.
Birds. Exactly, yes. I don't want him to be reactive, like, mountain, and
oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do?
Yes. Yeah. So when we think of it, it makes sense with our dogs too. We need to prepare them by being proactive.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't throw our children out into situations that are overwhelming and above their heads and simply cross our fingers and hope they do okay.
Right.
We send them to school. We send them for social education. We send them for education. We send them for basic skills.
Swimming lessons. Yes.
That is a perfect, oh my gosh, Swanee. See, some people think you're just a good looking girl.
I'm also a genius.
You're brilliant. Yeah, exactly.
I'm the brawn, too.
So, swimming lessons. Absolutely perfect. You're not just going to let your child play around the water and hope for the best. Most people are going to be proactive, and they're going to make sure that their children can handle any accident that might come their way, right?
Yes. And they're going to put proactive equipment on them.
Yeah.
A young child that's not a strong swimmer or any young child, I'm going to have a life jacket on.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a long line on a young dog.
You got it.
Life jacket on a child.
So good.
We are hot today.
All right.
I would like you to do a podcast by yourself without me one day.
Oh, you know what? I'd have to pause for too long to wait for what I think you would say, and then nobody would hear your side, and it would just be a weird conversation.
This is what I think Swanee would say. Yeah.
Swanee would be dancing at this point. Swanee would be doing some sort of, air dance. Alrighty. So what we have done today, beyond these examples that we're talking about, we have got a whole bunch of different ideas. And these ideas are all based on questions that we get a lot. We teach online dog training and in-person dog training, and we support our students very closely, and we field their questions daily. We look at their videos daily, and we coach them through all of these sort of misconceptions. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there that you get a dog and you just sort of let them do their thing. And then as long as you strap on a bait pouch every once in a while and you do a little bit of training, eventually those worlds are going to collect together and you're going to have a dog that is well trained. And it's important that you take some time to train your dog, of course. But what's more crucial is that you recognize that your dog is learning all of the time.
Right.
And that means being proactive for what they're going to learn is going to make your life that much easier. If you have a goal in mind of getting to the point where your dog can be free and loose and you can take them off leash on the trail, laws allowing, of course, and you can say, okay, you can enjoy your freedom. Go sniff that, wander with me as we walk. But, here comes, maybe we're in the mountains and there's bears, right? Oh, there's bear activity there. All right, you're going to get back in my side. I want to keep you under control for a bit. Make sure we get through this area. This is a dangerous thing.
Right.
Maybe there's another person coming on the trail. Maybe it's not as
or
extreme.
Horses. Sometimes you run into horses on trails.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So what we want to do
horses
is
with riders, not just packs of wild horses.
Are they packs?
Packs.
I think they're herds.
Herds. Yeah. Or I've been out hiking and then I see a sign that says poison ivy.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, I don't want my dog going in there, stiffing their face in there. Yeah. So it's like, okay, come on, back on your leash. This is a dangerous area.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We want to be able to give and take with that freedom, right? We know when things might be dangerous for our dogs. We know when things should be safe for our dogs. So we need to be able to move within that system, just like we would get to, Swanee's stifling laughter. I'm in trouble.
I like how Shannon's example was extreme. There's bears. Get your dog on leash. There's bears. She goes right to extreme.
There's a mass murderer loose in the area.
So you might need to get your dog on leash. Yes.
Yeah. Nothing just regular happens.
No.
Apparently, it's always either big or non-existent.
It's either couldn't just be like there's a patch of burrs coming up or
Oh, I knew you were laughing for a good reason. Now I'm laughing along with you. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are as proactive as we can be.
Yes.
Our dogs are learning, 24 hours a day. Whenever they're awake, they're learning things, right? As an example, I was filming a video with young Levon today for our members-only students, and we were doing, healing work with figure eights. And all of a sudden, he had a little puppy moment where he didn't want to out the toy, and he was, re-gripping little bits. And I found myself saying, this isn't a clean out. I'm going to work through this. So in the middle of the video, I was like, okay, hang on one second, members-only students. I need to train my dog. So we did some quick work on tug and out. I reinforced the things that needed to be reinforced. I made sure he understood that continuing to grip the toy was not the desired behavior in that situation. We trained through it, and then we went back to the life happens, right?
Yeah.
And we want to be able to be, of course, like that's an example of reactive dog training,
Right.
Because in that moment it happened, and I think that those moments are acceptable because they are moments that happen out of the blue in life, and I don't want to ignore that thing. I want to address it, so I'm going to address it. But now in my mind, I'm thinking like, was I clear with my out? Has this started creeping in? Have I let this creep in? But I've also started proactively making sure, okay, next time the tug toy's out, I'm going to make sure he's not jumping at it before he should. Like he's sort of hitting that adolescent time now. He's 6.5 months.
Yeah,
so
might
he's
start to push a bit. Yeah.
Well, he'll explore other behaviors, and I should expect that. And now at least we have good basics that I can now take, 30 seconds in the middle of a video, and I can say, okay, I'm going to work through this out thing. I'm going to get some success, and then we're going to move on from that sort of thing. So we definitely need to be reactive in certain respects, but not in the whole thing.
Yes.
Don't make it a gamble.
Right.
If you think I'm going into this situation with my fingers crossed that this works out, you're probably going to be doing some reactive dog training. And the only thing that would make that okay is if you say, okay, this might happen. If I let my dog off leash right now, he may very well not listen to me. So I'm going to make the choice to have him drag that long line.
Yes.
I'm not going to let him, I'm not going to let him off leash entirely. I'm going to put a fail safe in place that allows me to redirect his behavior if something goes wrong. So I'm going to compromise on my ideal. Yes, I want my dog to have freedom, but I don't want that freedom to lead us down the road that makes my life harder, puts my dog in danger, puts other people at risk. I mean, even if we have friendly dogs.
Right.
The biggest nightmare phrase any of us instructors hear when we're out in public, on trails, etc., is, don't worry, he's friendly. Most of our students will say the same thing as well.
Right. Yeah.
We do not want other dogs running up to us, to our dogs, etc., at any point.
Right.
I would be very respectful. If I was a person in the environment with my dog and I wanted my dog to interact with other dogs, I would say, my dog's very friendly. Are you interested in them saying hello? I would give the person the opportunity.
Right.
And so many people don't do that. And a lot of the times it's not because they're not considerate people in the rest of their lives. It's that they've put themselves in an untenable situation.
Right.
They've taken their dog off leash. They know they're not going to be able to call that dog back when they see another dog. And yet they've made that decision to give that dog the freedom. And that is, it's so unfortunate for people who have dogs that they don't want other dogs in their space. Maybe I'm just a person walking on the trail and I don't like dogs.
Right.
Maybe I'm afraid of dogs, I'm not going to be at a trail that allows off-leash dogs, but there's
or
often going to be people who let their dogs off-leash on those trails when they
Yes.
shouldn't.
Or you could be recovering from a surgery. You might be, maybe you've just had knee surgery and you're out trying to get some exercise, and imagine someone's dog knocking you over. Yes.
Yeah. Just try to think about these things and what might ensue, and the fact that the dog ignoring your recall is also going to be reinforced for doing so, right? Oh, I don't have to listen to you. You have no way of getting control. I can continue to evade. I can dance around, you know.
And then the day that they slip out your front door and are heading towards the road, they say, well, I got to ignore you that day in the forest. What's so different about now?
Yeah.
And then they're out on the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's obviously degrees of reactive dog training, and sometimes it is part of the equation. But if you're going into any of it with your fingers crossed, just don't.
Right.
Just don't. Come up with a better plan that allows you to keep control if you need to regain control.
Right.
So we've got a whole bunch of scenarios. Without further ado, scenarios.
I'll do the first one.
All right, do it. Drum roll.
I do hope it involves me dancing again.
Oh, you know what? Just it does. Look, it says Swanee gets up and dances.
We should actually, you know what? I'm going to, I'm going to charade this one out. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
woof, 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 woof.
My dog barks incessantly.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. My dog barks at everyone walking by my home. How do I fix it?
You know what? You need to tell people to take another route.
Right. I'd say yes. 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 Put up some fences. No more walking by my house.
No more walks for you.
Plant some bears out front. People will not walk past the house with bears.
Oh my God. I might be like, you know what? I think I'm tough enough. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope I make it through the bear zone.
Yes, I've done some proactive bear evading.
I actually wrestle bears in my spare time.
Yes. So, well, I think if you run too, like in quick little diagonals, changing direction, you'll just throw them off.
You know what I heard once when I was young, and I have no idea if this is actually true or not, but I heard if you are ever being chased by a bear, it kind of makes sense because of inertia. If you're ever being chased by a bear, run downhill because you can stop and they can't.
Oh.
So like, I hope there's a hill nearby if I'm ever being chased.
Right,
yeah. If I'm being chased by a bear, it's a prairie. I'm done.
You know what would happen, though? The bear would become a black bowling ball, and it would just take you right out, Shannon.
Well, you're supposed to stop and get out of the way.
Oh, okay, that not stand in front.
Yeah.
Yes. like there's a news clip I always see in the winter of kids are tobogganing. And one of the toboggan kids hits the news guy, and he does a full circle in the air. Yeah,
was it at the Kitchener Hill or something like that?
Yeah, local hill. Yes. Okay, back to our question. What
was our question? What are we talking about?
Dogs barking at the window or walking by our home.
All right. So here's the thing, right? How do you apply? Like, is your head right now saying, okay, reactively, I'm going to go correct my dog for barking at the window? Or is your head saying, okay, proactively, I need to come up with a training plan that helps my dog learn it's inappropriate to bark at the window, right? So there's angles for everything, right? And people use reactive dog training all the time.
They do, yes.
All the time. But it is inefficient, and it is often impossible.
Right. And the dog is in such a frenzied state barking, and then you coming in and taking his collar, like he's not learning at that point. It's like if I was running terrified from the bear and somebody came and started like, hey, Christina, it's like, I'm
Stop panicking. Yeah, Stop panicking. Just stand still and say hello to the bear. He just wants to be friends.
Yeah. Like I'm not learning at that point. Right. I'm in a whole other,
mode,
the whole other
your
plateau.
Body and your mind are in different places.
Yes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the rehearsal. So no longer does my dog have access to that window.
So how are you gonna keep keep your dog from accessing the window?
Well, I might use a long baby gate that I can set up. I might not allow the dog into that room. If it's a fence, I'm going to block my dog from going to the fence. I know I might have to buy some tarps so my dog can no longer see out there. Okay. But I need to prevent it from happening because the more it happens, the more it becomes a habit.
Perfect.
And the more the dog says, hey, it's fun. It wins.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment here and say, well, while you're doing all that and he's not rehearsing barking at the window, how is he learning not to bark at the window?
I'm going to practice it. And I'm going to set up the situation.
Yeah.
So when I have time, I'm going to open up my blinds and I'm going to take that baby gate down and I'm going to say, come on, people, walk past my house.
Come on, people now.
Yeah, or I'm going to wait for squirrels. And so I'm going to set aside training time. So instead of training, sit stays or walking, I'm training not barking at their.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm proactively going to reward my dog for good behavior at that window.
Perfect. And this doesn't even have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be you strapping on the bait pouch, putting on your leash, putting your dog in control position and waiting for somebody to walk by the window. Go in that room, read a book, tell your dog to lie down or give them a bone to chew. You're going to know when somebody starts to approach that window. Keep an eye, put yourself in a position where you can see if somebody's coming up the street. The dog's going to trigger on that person. So as your dog is chewing their bone, you spot a person coming, you're going to be saying, good, quiet, very good. Maybe tossing them a couple of treats. Maybe then you walk up to the window, right? Okay, come here. Let's see this person. Good, quiet.
Right.
Look at you. You're so smart. Or, maybe you're in a situation like my own. I would like my dog to alert. Not necessarily when people are walking down the street. When I lived in the city, if my dogs were incessantly barking at the window at people walking by, I would be very aggravated by that. So I never did allow that. We trained, you're calm and quiet in the house, but I do like when somebody approaches my house.
Yes.
I like my dogs to bark.
Right, that warning bark, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the reason that I have dogs. So with my own dogs, I say, good dog. Thank you. Now be quiet.
Right. Exactly.
And I've trained them before I leave them to make that decision. That's the key. I don't let them make the decision to bark at the window and then reactively tell them to be quiet, right? My dogs, Levon already knows how to shush. His command is shush. And he already knows how to shush at this point. When I say shush, he understands. The expectation is that he stops. It's not usually barking with him with tollers. Yes. It's other horrendous noises that make you go, I want to just like plug in earphones, or do I really have to hear today?
And Levon wasn't born knowing the word shush.
Oh gosh, no.
A lot of not. We'll get that question a lot.
Yeah.
I told my dog quiet and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what did you do to teach your dog quiet?
You're trying to be reactive without even having the tools to be reactive.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, in that scenario, if the dog doesn't understand what the command means, then of course they're not going to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. But I've never left Levon loose. Never left Levon loose. That's
almost a tongue twister.
Yeah. I've never left him loose to make his own decisions. He's not at that stage in his life yet. You know, at 6.5 months old, when he's loose in a room with me. It's very limited freedom in the house.
Because chances are his decisions would be poor ones.
Exactly. Oh gosh, yeah. Chances are there's no chances there. Like, he's a puppy.
Right.
Puppies make decisions. And they're not even bad decisions. They're decisions that work in a puppy world.
Right,
they're just decisions that don't work well in our world.
Right, yes. It's like young children left to their own devices. They'll go in your kitchen and they'll decide to make a cake and
out of crayons.
Right, or whatever they can find, out of salt, out of pepper, out of flour, and who knows?
You have pretty good children that are, their baddest behavior is going in the kitchen to make a cake.
Well, Ty never. I wish Ty had done that.
Where's the bear in this story? Come on, go to the extreme. The child's going to jail. Left to their own devices, that child's robbing a bank and going to jail. That's it. Oh my gosh. All right.
I wish that was the worst thing our children ever did was make cakes. Yes.
There you go. No,
it's like a delicious decision.
But truly, like, if we left our dogs to their own devices, they would do dog things.
Right.
We teach them how to exist in our world. We don't just wait for them to grow up and figure out how to live in our world gracefully.
Right.
That's not how it works.
No.
They grow up and become better dogs, which is why you see dogs that are untrained start to get reactive. It's why you see dogs that are untrained start to make poor decisions as adult dogs, you know?
Or they start to say, you know what, I'm not letting the vet look in my ear, and they start snapping, or no, you can't groom me anymore, and they snap.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't want to get to that point. We want to be as proactive as possible. So in that scenario, we are helping our dog be successful, right? So now that my dog understands a quiet command, now I can go into that room and set up that training scenario. You know, if I lived in a busy place and there was lots of people walking by the front of my house, I would expect that this is going to be an issue I'm going to have to deal with at some point. Right. Dogs are instinctually territorial in the way that they will say, hey, there's a doings afoot.
Yeah.
There's something going on and that shouldn't be going on.
It's very rewarding to the dog, too, because the person starts approaching the house, bark, 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 and now the person's going away, and the dog's like, I made them go away. My barking did that.
Exactly.
And dogs love stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they feel they're controlling these people.
Yeah, and you know what? That's exactly why the dogs who are obsessed with standing at the window, barking at the window, or standing at the window waiting for somebody to come so they can bark. Because it is reinforcing. It feels good. They're big and tough. They scared that person away. I kept my family safe.
Yes.
Woo.
And I've often wondered with squirrels, because we have lots of squirrels in Southern Ontario. I've lived in other parts of Canada and there's no squirrels. So people, must wonder sometimes who don't have a lot of squirrels.
And we have like red squirrels and black squirrels and gray squirrels and chipmunks.
Yeah, and they're everywhere. Like you can't go outside without seeing one immediately.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, because my dogs like to go out and chase all the squirrels out of the yard. But what would happen if the squirrel didn't run? I'd like the squirrel to take a run at my dog. I'd love to see that happen.
I'll tell you exactly what would happen. So Quincy, way back when, Rottweiler Quincy.
Right.
We had 2 cats at the time. I've told this story before. My sister had 2 cats, actually. One was named Roger, and he was a very bold street cat that had just come home to live with us. And he was used to, you know what, dog, you get off my turf. This is not your space. He was a very dainty white cat, but he was tough as nails. He was a sweetie, but he was tough. And then there was Billy, and she had just brought home Billy, and Billy was a scaredy cat. You know, same idea, came off the streets, alley cat, whatever, but not confident like Roger. Like definitely would have been probably in dire straits out there on the street himself. But anyway, so Billy came home, and Quincy was still a young dog at the time, 6 or 7 months old. And Quincy decided, oh, there's a new cat in the house. I'm going to go chase this cat up the stairs. So that started to ensue. And about 6 stairs up, Roger came flying from the top of the stairs and came down and met Quincy on the stairs with his hackles up and his big hiss and smacking her on the nose like he was a freaking MMA fighter. Oh, so much going on.
That's funny.
And she went, yikes. And she bolted back down the stairs and watched from the bottom of the stairs. And of course, he held his ground.
Right.
Billy was safe up behind. And Quincy never chased either of those
That's
cats
one event
in her
learning.
life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
If you have an animal that is supposed to be a prey animal or supposed to be the thing being chased, and the predator suddenly goes, oh, the tables have turned.
Right.
You know, all those instincts for chase and whatnot, like in all likelihood, it's not going to turn into a fight.
Right.
It's going to turn into a, whoa, okay, the dog goes, all right, got it.
Yeah.
You're not one of those creatures. Okay, no problem.
Right. Yes. Yes. And I would, cats are scary when they do that big hedge thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and like it's the attitude, right?
Right.
It's the presence of that creature. And like dogs are smart.
Right.
They go, oh, okay. Got it. No problem.
Yeah. Like even if a squirrel did that to me, I would probably like, okay, squirrel. Yeah, I'll give you a wide berth. Yeah.
I'd be like, rabbit, run for the hills. There's a bear in that squirrel. It's a squirrel dressed up for Halloween.
As a bear.
No, it's a bear dressed up for Halloween as a squirrel. Oh my gosh. All right, we got a lot of these to get through. I don't know if we're going to get through them all.
No, we're all over the place. We're ping pong balls.
Oh, I thought I had glasses in here, but I must have left them in the car. Oh, well, I'll get by. My parrot. No, I'm just kidding. My puppy ignores me when he's playing with my other dogs. How do I teach him to listen? You don't teach him to listen in any way that's different than what you would teach any dog to listen. But you need to do it before letting them play with the other dog. I mean, saying I want to teach him to listen when he's playing with my other dogs is like saying I'm going to teach my child how to do calculus while we're riding the roller coaster.
Right, yes.
You know, it's not going to happen.
Right.
There's nothing that I can offer my child in terms of incentive to focus on me when they are that excited and that out of their mind, right? Same thing with a puppy playing with other dogs in the house.
I just thought of another thing that we can liken it to.
Let's do it.
'Cause we're just so off topic. I'm not going to teach myself to swim while the ship is sinking. I'm going to learn how to swim before that ship sinks.
That is a good idea.
Yes.
Good idea for sure. So yeah,
right.
Before this puppy gets into that state of mind where they're about to like blow a gasket because they're so excited by these other dogs they're chasing and they're playing and they're getting so much reinforcement from the fun. I mean, let's face it. It's like saying to our children who are playing in the ball pit as they eat ice cream and there's chips coming their way and everything too, and they're in the middle of this like wonderful time, you need to come out here and eat your broccoli. Like what's
or come out here and do your math homework.
What's the incentive? And yeah, you know what? I can go in there and I can drag my child out and forcibly sit them down and say, eat your broccoli. But chances are they're just going to resent broccoli more.
Exactly.
They're going to resent me more. They're going to realize how much fun they're missing out on and how little fun I'm offering them.
It's basically going to teach them that you're stronger than them, and next time they have to evade you better.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and that's what happens with dogs. You know, they learn exactly how long our arms are. If we put them into that mind frame where they're like, oh, you're going to end my fun. You're going to end my fun. You're going to end my fun. Or you're going to come and chase me down while I'm playing and having fun. And then when you catch me, you're going to end my fun. They learn really quickly.
And yell at me.
Yeah. They learn really quickly how to keep away. So here's what I would do with my dog. And here's what I would suggest anybody who has multiple dogs would do. And this is what I did do with Levon. You know, I assessed how much focus does Levon have with other dogs right now. And when he came home, it was immense. He was all about the other dogs because he had 13 litter buddies to play with.
Yeah.
You know, he had spent 4 weeks of his life, well, probably 6 weeks of his life, but, you know, the first 2 weeks, they're not doing too much. He had spent all that time partying with his litter mates.
Right. So right away, you're drawn to something that's like you.
Absolutely. So when he came home, I minimized Ned in his life as much as possible because had I just said, okay, go play with Ned, you guys, I want you to be best buddies, he would have become more and more and more obsessed as things went on because that's where he was getting his reinforcement from, right? So if he's out there playing with Ned and having a party, that's rewarding for him. You know, we say rewards, and often people think in terms of food, but rewards are anything that is valuable to the dog, and play is incredibly valuable.
Yes.
So how we present that play is really, really important. And if we can use their play drive to train behaviors, you know, I have absolutely full confidence at this point. Anytime Levon and Ned are out loose together, whether they're playing or just sniffing around, I can call Levon off Ned. I can also call Ned off Levon, of course. But that's where I want to be. I want to have tons of confidence that I can call my dog off of distractions before I make those distractions so rewarding that they're going to override potentially my training. So I need to make sure I set things up proactively. I have a plan going. I then, you know, I make myself valuable. I make the recall valuable. Then I can go and make Ned valuable too. Because of course I want them to be buddies.
Right.
You know? Hopefully they get to spend a lot of years together.
Yes.
And whatever next puppy I get. But I need to make sure that I have good listening skills first, and I'm not going to put my puppy in a situation where I'm going to need to call them away and I won't be able to.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
proactive.
Yes.
Absolutely. Does it take time? Is it inconvenient? Did I have to live like I had 2 separate dogs for a while? Yeah. Yes to all of those things.
But it was only for a few short months.
It was for a few short months, and now I hopefully
reward
will
of
have
years.
12, 13, 14, please, like as many as possible years of enjoyment with this
Right.
pup. And I mean, I'm not suggesting it's done by any stretch of the imagination. He's still at a fairly cooperative age point. Development is still continuing to happen. At 7 months, he's going to become adolescent. I'm going to have to reassess things again and make sure everything is sharp and all his skills are good, but I'm going to do that proactively, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to just like, oh, you know what? Things are slipping a little bit and he's starting to make me give him 2 commands for things and just go, oh, I hope this doesn't turn into something that I don't like. No, I'm going to make sure, okay, I'm continuing to train. We're continuing to train the basic skills. He's at the point now where we're training lots of field work and lots of competitive obedience stuff. So he's getting all the gravy stuff at this point.
Yes.
He loves it. He wants to do everything. And it's because I made things valuable.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, he wants to work with me. He doesn't care at all about Ned now if there's an opportunity to work with me, which I love. And that's what we want from our dogs, right? I got him to be my buddy first.
Right.
You can be Ned's buddy second, right? And then my partner's buddy third. That's the ranking in my house. All right, let's do another scenario here.
Okay, I got a big one. It's got hardly any writing though. Okay. My dog is hard to control at the vet. They've talked about having to sedate him for nail trims. What do I do?
Yeah. That's hard.
Yes, that is hard. So we need to do some proactive handling to teach the dog that it's okay to be touched and it's okay for other people to touch you.
Yeah. And see, here's the thing. Our puppies often will throw us for a little bit of a loop because when they're young, we usually can do these things, right? People will often say, oh yeah, I play with his feet all the time. He doesn't mind it one bit. I wouldn't expect a puppy at that age to mind it.
And often too, what people are doing is they're patting.
Yeah.
They're not examining too.
Yeah.
That's what I find in our puppy essential classes. We were working on it last night, and there was people saying, "Oh, I can touch him anywhere," but they're basically just patting him. No, you need to pick up a foot and examine.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely. Well, and pick up the foot and put pressure on the nails, and pick up the foot and bring an instrument close to them. You know, all of and that sounds really simplified too. I'm just realizing that it sounds way too oversimplified for what we actually do. I spend a lot of time conditioning nail work, and Levon at 6.5 months old, I just did his nails yesterday. I do them once a week, and he literally sits there with his paw in my hand, drooling, waiting for his cookie.
I think you should
as
start
I trim all his nails.
painting his toenails. I would like to see him with painted toenails.
I should, and I could at this
You
point.
could,
It'd be
yes,
great.
and they'd be beautiful.
But
Make sure that you do gel nails.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Of course. But yeah, like I've spent time pretty much daily from the time he came home. I made sure that I did some handling work with his feet for, I would say, probably about the first 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
You know, every day I would do a little bit of handling work with his feet, and it would be, you know, maybe 3 minutes in total for a session. Like it's not a huge dedication of time, but it is so worthwhile because this dog needs weekly nail trims for the rest of his life.
Right.
How am I going to deal with that if I need to sedate my puppy, right? Or sedate my dog? So,
exactly.
And this is reality for a lot of people if they don't do the work leading up. And again, if you find yourself saying, "Oh, my puppy's fine. They let me do anything like this." You're who we're talking to. You're absolutely who we're talking to, because they give us this false sense of security where we think, oh, they're going to be fine because they're quote unquote friendly, right? Our society tends to really compartmentalize things. Dogs are either friendly or they're not friendly. And if they're friendly, then of course we should be able to do everything. But the dogs that are super friendly will still panic over things that they aren't confident about.
Yes.
If I've never experienced that, when you grab me in the alley and give me a punch in the shoulder.
Would that be a bear doing that?
It's going to be a bear. You can tell I'm really struggling to come up with an analogy here. But if I know that you grabbing me in the alley and punching me in the shoulder is because I had a giant spider on me and like, this is something I've been conditioned to, I'm probably going to be able to handle that situation, even though it might be startling. It's the logical part of my brain can calm myself, right?
Well, it's like going to the dentist.
Yeah. Okay.
It's,
all right. This is a good one. Yeah. Because a lot of people do panic in the dentist chair.
Right. Yes. But if you understand what they're doing and it's for the greater good, you can condition yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
It's also a more realistic thing than
no. I know. Shannon, right away it goes to the worst case scenario. But yeah, like I know when I go to the dentist, I'm gonna have to hold my mouth open, and it's uncomfortable.
Oh, very. Yeah.
And they might put a big cotton ball in there, and. But
Swanee only likes candy in her mouth.
Yes. But I've been conditioned that. But if suddenly it happened to me, and nobody had. Like condition me to this, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Absolutely.
Like, what the dentist is trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Like,
and then people in the vet's office restraining their dog and saying, it's okay, you're okay. And the dogs can't at that point calm and realize that they are safe. They're panicked. They think that they are in danger. They think they're going to be hurt. So if you've taken some time first to say, hey, when I hold your paw like this, it's a good thing. You might get a cookie. When I push this instrument into your toenails, it's a good thing. You might get a cookie. When I clip this nail, it's a good thing. You might get a cookie. Like all of those steps leading up have prepared him for the clipping part. And then he's thinking, oh my gosh, this is great because I just hang out here and then I get a cookie. And of course, if you're careful and you never clip a quick, they never have a bad experience and life goes on. Of course, if you do clip a quick, it's going to sting a little bit. You might have to do some remedial work to help them get comfortable again. But it's very important that you do that. If you cut into a quick and your dog goes, ow, that's terrible, it hurts, and then you never do anything to bring them back to a calm state for nail trims, they're just going to get more and more panicked every time.
If I, by mistake, clip a quick, that's another tongue twister. Clip a quick. I immediately start to play with the dog.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was funny. Yay, wee. I'm not
because you're callous.
No, because I want the dog to go, oh, that's not so bad. Like Christine's not worried about it. I shouldn't be worried about it either.
Yeah, sort of like the reaction with the toddler when they fall, right? They fall on their face and they go, and they look at you with that look of like they're about to wail, and you start laughing, and then they laugh too. They forget about the stress, right?
My parents' tactic, at least my dad's tactic, is say I fell, and it's like, oh, I fell on the sidewalk, and my dad will be like, oh, look at the hole in the sidewalk you made. So instead of focusing on my knee bleeding, I'm like looking like, oh my gosh, there is a little crack in the sidewalk.
You know what?
I made that crack. Yeah,
I'm gonna even it out so your other knee looks the same, and then you forget about the original.
But that was always my dad's tactic, and he was a school teacher, so maybe that's what he did on the recess playground too. Yeah,
must be.
Oh my gosh, look at the tree you ran into, it's got a crack in it.
That's Swanee. She's wrecking all our trees. All right, my dog chews the furniture when I go to work. What do I do?
I quit your job.
Quit your job. Stay home full time.
Yes.
So here's another.
Any dog owner should just get a government funded wage to stay home and be with your dog. And it should be a good wage too.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Justin Trudeau, did you hear that?
Yeah. Can you run?
It's your last hope for
can you run?
All right.
Yeah. Well, I would totally vote for you.
Yeah. But I was thinking if that could be his last hope to get reelected.
You know what's funny? There is actually, I can't remember what it's called. And I can't remember where I watched it. I think it might have been on Netflix, but it might have been on Crave too. But there's a documentary out there about, there was a generational, not movement, I don't want to say, but very young people. It was like sort of high school, college age. And
I might have heard of this.
Okay, maybe. So they were basically talking about like everybody getting a living wage. So all of these students get a living wage and the the people in the documentary that were students were saying, like, because I want to live my life and I want the freedom to do that, so I need the money to be able to do that. And as an adult, you know that idealism of youth thing, right? My dad used to say that to me all the time when I was a kid, and I would get so mad because I would be like, no, this is possible. So, like, who's paying all these people's wages?
Right,
like,
yes.
where is this money coming from? Anyways, I digress.
Right, yes, yes.
It's definitely a very bizarre.
I think it'll be the cat people who pay our wages.
The cat people will pay our wages. I don't even know why I brought that up now, and I can't think of the connection, so I'm just going to move on.
Yes, we digressed.
When I listen to the replay, I'll know what it was. So, all right. So if your dog's chewing on the furniture, they're not ready to be out. And reactively, you can realize that after you've found some chewed furniture.
Right.
Or you can recognize proactively that puppies like to chew things. Puppies absolutely are. Honestly, Levon has just finally stopped being in that mode where everything needs to go in his mouth. And part of that is because I've directed that behavior a little bit. So like we're going for a walk on the property, for example, I hand him a bumper so that he's got this thing in his mouth already that he's happy with and he can carry it around and he's not looking for other things to put in his mouth.
Right.
I do the same thing on the deck. You know, I give him something proactively when he's excited. You know, Kip might be coming home, for example. That's my partner. He might come home and Levon gets really excited and he always looks around for something to put in his mouth because he's a sporting breed.
Right,
and sporting breeds, when they're joyful, they want to carry something. They want to steal something. I teach my dogs to steal appropriate things. So that they're not
he tries to steal Honda's bed.
He did try. Yeah, but you taught him that.
I know, I did.
And now it's inappropriate. But
Honda's going to get dumped out of his bed one day.
Oh my gosh. He loves Honda's bed. He wants to take it and shake it. I actually took pictures that day after you had left.
Oh, right.
When he
Of
went in and
Honda's
stole
bed,
Honda's bed. And I keep forgetting to show them to you.
Your bed is so
funny.
popular, Honda.
He was so joyful. Anyways. I digress. So we need to make sure that we understand that puppies are going to put everything in their mouths. I teach my dogs as a rule proactively because I know, you know, this is my 5th toller. There's lots of great information I've stored up on the things that I need to do to have a really good existence with these dogs. So I make sure that when they get in that excited mode and I see them looking around for things, I have something at the ready that is appropriate that I can hand to them. And what that results in is a dog that looks for that item in that situation. So eventually he becomes conditioned. Ned will automatically look for that thing that is, but he's also a little bit older and he's not quite as wiggly anymore. But, you know, you take these situations that you know you're going to expect to happen. Like, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody when they let their dogs off leash and the dog doesn't come when they're called and they've been crossing their fingers that the dog would every time.
Yes.
I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. No. You know, maybe it is, but realistically, it's probably not. You're taking a chance and you need to calculate that, right? If you're about to take that dog off leash, is this a risk?
Right.
You know, and if so, what is that risk? And if it is a risk and I've identified that risk, how do I mitigate that risk so that I'm not setting myself up or setting somebody else up for a bad scenario?
Right. Yes. I was just saying, and the risk too, your dog could be injured.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, I never take dogs off leash if there's any doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
People often say, oh, let them be dogs, but
I want to let them be dogs for a long time.
Yes.
That's why I train them.
Right. Yeah. And dogs don't make good choices.
Yeah. No.
Unless they've been trained. Yes.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We're asking dogs to live in our world. We owe them better than just, oh, I'm going to let him be a dog. That's what a poor leader would say.
Yes.
You know, a good leader says, you know what? I'm going to help them be a dog living safely in a human world by giving them skills and understanding of that human world. And that's what good leadership is. Leadership is not about being mean and militant. It's about guiding, just like we would do with our children, right? Okay, we're approaching the street now. Take my hand. We're going to look both ways. You know, a poor leader would just walk across the street and leave the child to make the decision on their own. A good leader says, okay, this is a scenario where you need to learn how to be safe, but you're still too young to self-regulate on that. So I am going to help you learn how to be safe in this scenario.
Yes. One thing I want to mention too, living in the city myself, I've seen people over the years, and suddenly you see a neighbor down the street has a little puppy, and they start walking the little puppy, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. And then all of a sudden, you don't see them walking it anymore because now it's dragging and pulling. Yeah. And now that poor dog doesn't go on walks because the person doesn't want to put the time into teaching them not to pull. And now that dog lives their life in the backyard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what kind of life is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, but it's funny how many puppies I see, and then once they hit about 4 or 5 months, I don't see them anymore.
Yeah, so unfortunate. And like not a great life for a dog. We want to
No.
be able to include our dogs in our lives, right? Like that's the benefit of training. I get to take my dogs everywhere with me. When I go to families for a visit, they come with me. I bring along fabric crates so that I have a place for them. When I go to my nephew's soccer games, my dogs come with me sometimes. Like I can bring them out and have them lie down calmly with me. It's nice to be able to include them in my life. It's nice to be able to do so without it being a huge affair where, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to deal with the pulling. I'm going to have to deal with him being hyper every time the ball gets kicked. I'm going to have to deal with this, that, and the other. You know, it's just nicer for all of us if they have some skills and they have some understanding of what the expectation is there.
That's being proactive too.
Exactly.
If I'm getting myself a ginormous dog breed or a very boisterous dog breed, I'm going to make sure I start my leash training when the puppy's young.
Yes.
I'm not going to wait until the dog is 90 pounds and dragging me down the street to start teaching the dog.
Definitely.
I'm going to start young and early.
Yeah. And on that note, I would say even if you have a Chihuahua that is never going to drag you down, your experience with them will be so much nicer if you can communicate and if they don't pull and if they don't become one of those dogs that is laughed at for being obnoxious. So they're constantly obnoxious, right?
Yes.
You know, we tend to go, oh, look at him. He thinks he's tough.
Yeah.
Well,
he
you know
thinks
what?
he's big. Yeah.
That's funny for us to look at, but that dog's probably not living the happiest life.
Right,
It's probably pretty stressed all the time.
All the time, yes.
If you were to tell that dog, you know what, this is not an acceptable behavior, and give them alternative behaviors, give them better reactive or better reactions to go to, they're probably going to have a much nicer life.
Right,
you know?
yes. Well, that's with Honda. Honda's a small dog, but I raised him with all the same rules that I had for my Belgian Malinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because he's tiny doesn't mean he can jump on people or be goofy. You know, I thought, you know what, if this was a big Malinois or German Shepherd, would I allow it? No. Well, then why would I allow my little dog to do it too?
I love that.
And I think a lot of people miss that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely.
They allow little dogs to get away with a lot of little things. And that's, I think, why little dogs have a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Because they've been allowed to get away.
Yeah, and truly, like, we have some dynamite little dogs that can do all the things the big dogs can do when they have the training and the skills. So
yes.
You can have a blast with your little dog, too. And your little dog, too. Okay, my dog steals my slippers. How do I stop him? So here's a good scenario. This is similar to the dog making poor choices and chewing in the house as well. So we want to make sure that we manage any situation, whether it is letting your dog off leash when you don't necessarily have a recall, whether it is leaving your dog loose in the living room, whether it is having your dog loose in the house and having slippers available, you know, all of those things, there's a situation and an outcome in. And the outcome is probably not favorable if you have your dog loose in the house and there's slippers at the front
Especially
door.
if they're big fuzzy slippers.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you haven't taught the dog what the rules of the house are yet.
Right.
That's the thing. When we're talking about this, we're talking about how you establish habits, right? If I were to, instead of what I've done with Levon, right, where he has been crated when I can't supervise him, he's been crated when I'm busy and when I can't deal with him, when I can't, you know, make sure I'm directing his behavior, etc. If I hadn't done those things and I had just left him loose to his own devices, he would absolutely have learned to be loose and look for things to entertain himself. Right. So maybe that's a slipper. Maybe that's the remote control. Maybe that's, you know, whatever the thing is.
The local bear.
The front window, right? Yeah, making friends with the local bear. Whatever the thing is that he has learned to do with his free time when he's bored, it's the thing that he's going to keep practicing, right? So if he learned as a baby puppy, oh, there's slippers at the front door, I'm going to steal them.
Yep.
Oh, guess what? That's reinforcing, right? We talk about rewards. It's not just food. It's anything the dog finds valuable. So if that puppy finds grabbing the slipper and then playing keep away or whatever, chewing up the slipper, all of those things are very rewarding to a dog. They're very valuable to a dog, not to a human. We don't sit down and chew slippers. I mean, some of us probably do, but, you know, I digress. But to a dog, that's a great pastime.
And especially sometimes slippers move. people are wearing them and suddenly these fuzzy pair of slippers, like, oh, that's what was on them. And they were moving.
What are you getting at? Do you have some sort of house hippo?
House hippo slippers. But slippers move as well.
Yeah.
They see us and they smell like us very strongly as well. So
absolutely.
puppies are very attracted to slippers.
Yeah, sometimes they're plush-like. Sometimes they're
leather.
really stinky.
Yeah, moccasins. Yeah,
absolutely. So those are appealing to the nature of the dog. And if left to their own devices, of course they're going to pursue what's appealing to their nature. Why wouldn't they?
Yes.
You know, we all do, right? Like, we go to work because we know that we need to make money. We know that we need to pay our bills, etc. But if suddenly we were independently wealthy, we would pursue what appealed to our nature, right? That's how we would want to spend our time. It's the same for dogs, and it's instinctual for them. So it's even different. And we need to teach them.
Right.
We need to proactively show them what we want. So now, 6.5 months old, if I wore slippers.
You don't wear slippers?
I don't wear slippers. I don't even wear socks at home. I actually don't like anything on my feet unless I'm, going out in the wild or in civilized society as well. Those two scenarios, I wear shoes.
Well, I'm taking back your Christmas present then.
Oh, no.
I feel bad. You should get those slippers that look like giant bear feet. They have claws on the end and they're big, black, fluffy ones. That's what you need.
You know what? That's what I need to go into the mountains and face the bears.
Yes.
Then at least if they see me, they're like, oh, she's one of us.
You're
she's
on equal ground.
We're good. That works, right?
Yes, it does. It will work for sure. For sure. My dog won't retrieve to me. He just grabs the toy and runs away. What do I do?
Uh-oh. Yeah. So here's another scenario, right? You can either throw the toy and go, okay, I hope
the toy's gone. Yeah.
I hope he brings this back. Or you can actually teach them to retrieve.
Right. Yes. Yes. So I will, with a young puppy, not leave it to chance. I will have the toy on a rope. So I'll take a soft toy, tie it to a rope. And so when I throw out the toy, the puppy can't just run off with it. I have control.
And then what do? Do you just stop them and go, ha, I got the toy?
No. I'll wiggle the toy around on the ground. And then when they pick it up, we'll have a little game of tug. And the puppy's going to go, oh, you know what? It's fun to interact with this toy. Yes.
So we manipulate the situation to make it work in our favor. And that sounds devious, but eventually our dogs go, oh, that's fun and I love it. Not eventually. It happens pretty quickly.
A lot of dogs are not natural retrievers.
No, exactly.
I'm always jealous of people who have dogs who just are born going and picking up a dog and a ball and bringing it right back. Because I honestly seldom had that.
I've never had a natural retriever, and I've had 5 retrievers.
Right.
So actually, Ty was a natural retriever. Ty was naturally everything. That dog never gave me a hard time a day in his life. He was just, he was that dog. Like, he just wanted to do whatever I wanted. And from 4 weeks on, I don't know how I got lucky with that dog. But I think it was just to give me perspective that this is what some people experience.
Right.
And then most people experience this, and this.
Right, yes. Yeah, because most dogs think, you threw it away. Why would you want it back?
Yeah. Well, and realistically, a dog is going to be much more inclined to play keep away than to bring a toy back to you.
Right, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Puppies will grab and then entice and say, chase me, right? If you watch puppies in a litter, they're not grabbing a toy and running to one of their litter mates and saying, here it is. Here it is for you. Grab it and let's tug. Yes. They're grabbing that toy, and when their litter mate says, hey, what do you got? They go, ha, catch me if you can.
Yes.
And the chase ensues, right? So this is a normal behavior for our dogs.
Right.
Bringing the toy to us and relinquishing it to us is not a natural, normal behavior for our dogs. Now, there's obviously exceptions to the rule. There's always exceptions. There's a puppy who figures out very quickly, oh, I bring it to you, you throw it, and there's so much reinforcement in the throw that they want to do it again and again and again. Sure, that happens occasionally. I had that with Ty. I don't think I've had it with any of my other dogs. So, I would be spending time teaching, specifically teaching.
Right.
Here's
and keeping control of that toy so they can't run off with it.
Keeping control of the puppy as well.
Oh, yes.
I would always have a long line on the puppy regardless, but I make sure that when I put a long line on my toy, I still have a long line on my puppy. And here's the thing. With the long line on the puppy, my goal is not to use it. My goal is to use my voice. My goal is to use my touch. My goal is to use my body language. I want to be able to say, hey, pup, 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 give the pup a touch. And then when he looks at me, I'm going to back away and let him chase me with that toy, because body language, me backing away, is naturally going to draw the puppy in. And then from there, I can get a hold of the toy, we can have that game of tug. So I'm not physically pulling the puppy to me with the long line. And ideally, I'm also not necessarily physically pulling the toy back to me with the long line. I'm giving the puppy an opportunity to make a better choice by removing the option of them grabbing the toy and running away.
In fact, even more proactive, pretty much the first day I bring my puppy home, I'm teaching that puppy to chase me.
Yes.
Just for the fun of chasing me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even more proactive, like chase me. Anytime I start moving, you chase me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Anybody who has been listening for a while, you'll have heard my recount of Levon's first week home, and talking about that puppy's natural tendency was immediately in my yard to play keep away and to try to duck under the stairs and have me chase him from there. So right away, I started doing follow games around the yard, started doing chase like Swanee's talking about here, to create value for the other option, right?
Like even if
value for the option that I wanted.
Even if I got up right now and opened our podcast door and started running, like Honda would wake up and chase me. He'd go, "Oh, when humans run, like Christine runs, go and chase her." Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And
and that doesn't bleed over, and like. My son grew up running all around, and my puppies knew not to chase him. Yeah. So it was all a matter of you chase me under some circumstances. Yep. They wait for that sort of invitation to be chased.
Absolutely. See, here's the thing with dogs. When you know there's going to be a potential for a problem like that, right? Like your puppy chasing your toddler, for example. Take control of that behavior. Don't avoid that behavior. Do not avoid it. It's not going to go away by you avoiding it. You need to teach them what is appropriate. That's what training is all about. So a lot of the times people will say to us when we try to get them to call a playtime with their dogs, "Oh, I can't. He gets too rough in play. He gets too boisterous in play, so we don't play." And it's like, that's never going to teach him how to play appropriately.
Exactly, yes.
So here's proactive dog training. Take control of the scenario. Teach the puppy how to play with you appropriately. If you have a puppy that's like over the top in their play style and they're all over the place, you might do 2 or 3 seconds of little play and then 10 or 15 seconds of working the settle part of that.
Yes.
And once they can approach this situation with a bit of a calmer brain, you can start to increase the duration of the play and you can start to decrease the duration of the settle. But having both of those skills is a really important thing. One, you can use play as reward. You can use play as engagement for your dog. There's all sorts of reasons for us to teach our puppies to play with us. We can also use play to set appropriate rules, right? Yep. If I teach my puppy that whenever they do X behavior, the game ends, or whenever they do X behavior, there's discipline involved, those things will eventually fade off, right? If I teach my puppy that every single time he goes to nip me in play, for example, that ends the game. Sometimes it results in discipline, depending on how hard the nip was. Very quickly, he's going to say, okay, the fun ends when I do X. Right. And then he's going to avoid doing X. And then I'm going to be able to build more value for all the Y and Z behaviors that are happening around that. Maybe in that play, he was biting at my hands.
Or at your fuzzy slippers.
Or at my fuzzy bear slippers. And I ended the game with a little bit of a collar hold or some discipline there. That gives my puppy solid information. So now when I say playtime again, ideally he's avoiding that behavior. And if he doesn't, I'm going to address it again. Right. Not all puppies learn on that first rep. Some of them need several reps in order to, even if there's discipline involved, in order to truly understand what you're asking them to do. So we need to be consistent with that. And now every single time I say to my dog, playtime, if he knows that he is going to have the game removed or even possibly have some discipline by me saying, or by him using his teeth on me and doing X, he's going to avoid that. Dogs are great about that. Yes. If we give them clear information, they're going to take it and run with it. But if I always avoid it, I'm not going to have a puppy who goes, okay, I'm never going to use my teeth on you because you didn't call playtime. I'm going to have a puppy who just continues to use their teeth and never gets that channeled and never builds that emotional control surrounding their teeth because they've never been held accountable for it, right?
Yes.
I need to direct my puppy's behavior. That's what is proactive about helping my puppy learn what's acceptable and what's not. And play is such a valuable thing that it is worth pushing through. But even if I didn't think it was valuable, even if I didn't push through with the play, My dog is not going to learn not to nip me necessarily unless there's lessons outside of that, unless there's understanding outside of that. And that means that I need to lean into the behavior in order to change the behavior. I can't just hope, blind hope that he never nips at anybody. If I don't, if I walk really slowly, is that going to teach my dog, or is that going to prevent him from nipping at my pant legs? Maybe not. But at some point, you're going to need to walk a little bit quicker than that, and that behavior is going to come out again. So be proactive and just deal with it.
Right.
It's unpleasant to deal with some of these behaviors that we don't like, but the way that the dog is going to learn is by us helping to address them.
Exactly.
So come up with a plan, be as proactive as you can, and help your dog understand. And on that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanee.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!